Turns out, the immune mystery behind Alzheimer's. Your immune system might be betraying your brain right now, and you have no idea it's happening. Most of us think Alzheimer's is something that happens in the brain, sticky proteins piling up, neurons dying, memories getting erased like a hard drive slowly formatting itself. That's half the story. The real story starts somewhere completely different, in your blood. Researchers just analyzed nearly 900,000 people's genetic data and found something unsettling. The genes that break in Alzheimer's disease aren't just sitting in your brain cells, they're in your immune cells. Circulating through your body, active right now in people who don't even have symptoms yet. So the question becomes, if your immune system is involved in Alzheimer's, can we stop it before it ever reaches your brain? For decades, neuroscientists were obsessed with the brain. They had tunnel vision, and you can kind of understand why. Alzheimer's destroys the brain. But the immune system? That seemed like a supporting actor, a bystander. We knew inflammation happened in Alzheimer's brains, sure, but most researchers thought that was just collateral damage. The real enemy was amyloid and tau, misfolded proteins that seemed to be the primary criminals. There were drugs targeting these proteins that looked promising in the lab. Some reached clinical trials, and then they barely worked. This failure forced neuroscience to reconsider its assumptions. Maybe the immune system wasn't a bystander. Maybe it was the main character all along. What if your immune cells were actually driving the disease? What if amyloid and tau were just symptoms, not the cause? This shift in thinking opened an entirely new avenue of research. Instead of asking what kills neurons, researchers started asking what goes wrong with the immune cells in people who develop Alzheimer's. Here's what this team did, and it's genuinely intricate. They started with a massive genetic database, nearly 900,000 people, and looked for genetic variants linked to Alzheimer's risk. This is called a GWAS, a genome-wide association study. It's like someone handed you a massive spreadsheet of human DNA and you're looking for patterns. Which genetic letters appear more often in people with Alzheimer's than people without it? Once they spotted those patterns, they did something clever. They looked at which genes those genetic variants were controlling. Using tissue samples, they tracked down in which cells do these Alzheimer's risk genes actually get turned on and off. This is called EQTL analysis. It's basically a map showing which genes are active in which tissues. Here's the gut punch finding. Many of these risk genes weren't primarily active in neurons. They were active in immune cells. So they kept digging deeper. They used something called Mendelian randomization, which is like a detective technique to figure out cause and effect from genetic data. Imagine you have two suspects, gene A and gene B. Both are present at crime scenes, but which one actually committed the crime? Mendelian randomization uses genetic variation as a kind of tool to push on one suspect and see what happens. If you push on gene A's activity and Alzheimer's risk goes up, you've got probable cause. It's not proof, but it points you toward real causation, not just correlation. So what did they find? Multiple genes that control immune function appear to directly influence Alzheimer's risk. One major category involved genes that control how immune cells communicate, specifically cytokines, which are like the cellular version of alarm signals. When these communication systems break down, it's like your immune system starts sending false alarms or missing real threats. They also found genes involved in immune cell activation and migration, essentially whether immune cells wake up and leave the bloodstream to patrol tissues. In people at genetic risk for Alzheimer's, these systems appear dysregulated. It's not that immune cells are hyperactive exactly, it's more chaotic than that. Some signals are turned up when they should be down. Some pathways are broken. They validated these findings by looking at actual blood samples from Alzheimer's patients and comparing them to healthy controls. The pattern held. The immune landscape in Alzheimer's blood is genuinely different, like a forest where the usual feedback loops that maintain balance have been disrupted. Interestingly, they found that some of these immune changes appear very early, possibly before cognitive symptoms show up. This matters enormously. It suggests the immune dysregulation isn't just a consequence of neurodegeneration. It might be a cause. So, practically speaking, what changes? First, the obvious. If your genetic risk for Alzheimer's is actually mediated through immune dysfunction, drugs that target immune systems might actually work, where protein-targeting drugs failed. Researchers are already exploring this. Second, and maybe more important for healthy people, if these immune changes happen early and track ahead of cognitive symptoms, then blood tests measuring these immune markers could become screening tools. Imagine getting a blood test that tells you your immune system is drifting into an Alzheimer's risk pattern years before you'd notice any cognitive changes. You could then do something about it. Lifestyle changes, exercise, diet modifications, possibly even preventive drugs when they exist. The limitations are real, though. Genetic risk isn't destiny. Many people with these genetic variants never develop Alzheimer's. And this study is correlational at its core. It shows that immune dysregulation correlates with Alzheimer's risk, but that's different from proving it causes the disease. Also, these findings are from blood. The actual damage happens in the brain. We still don't fully understand how peripheral immune dysfunction reaches into the brain and causes damage. This research lands in a broader shift happening across neurology. The old brain-centric model is being replaced by systems models. Your brain doesn't exist in isolation. It's connected to your immune system, your gut bacteria, your cardiovascular health. Alzheimer's is starting to look less like a purely neurological disease and more like a systems disease. This opens doors to treatments previously considered irrelevant to dementia: immunotherapies, anti-inflammatory drugs, even therapies targeting the gut-brain axis. There are competing theories, though. Some researchers still believe amyloid is the primary driver and immune dysregulation is secondary, a response to amyloid, not a cause. The field is currently in productive conflict about this. We'll likely find that it's both. Amyloid might initiate problems, but immune dysregulation amplifies them.